Welcome to The Right Hook. I am Steve Hook, your host. It's wonderful to be with you again on this Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. Happy Ash Wednesday to all of our Catholic viewers and listeners. It's good to be with you. We have a great show today. We really do. I'm going to introduce our very special guest. I found out that Michael will be able to hang with us for the whole hour, which is just thrilling to me because if there's one thing I love doing, it's going over a Democrat meltdown in real time with somebody else. There he is now. Michael Lauber joins us now. Of course, he's from the show, The Insurrectionist. And we welcome you, Michael. How are you, brother?
Oh, it's just another day in paradise over here. I mean, I think this speech last night was probably the best speech that President Trump has ever given. And then watching the Democrats just completely implode, to refuse to stand and clap for anything, catching the mastermind behind Abbygate, that poor child with brain cancer, anything. They couldn't bring themselves to clap except for Ukraine. They stood up and clapped for Ukraine.
Yeah, it was a tale of two parties last night. You had President Trump get up on stage to a rousing applause from at least half of the chamber. The other half sat on their hands, as you mentioned. But he was in command. He was funny at times. There were times he was, just really funny. And what I really loved about it, Michael, was the fact that he didn't seem to give a rip what they did. They held up their, I'll say this. Whose ever idea it was to give them little paddles to hold up should be immediately fired, because you knew what was the second I saw him, I said, oh boy, Photoshop trolls are going to have a field day with those paddles. And of course they did. So those paddles got turned into internet memes, which was obvious was going to happen. Then you mentioned they didn't stand up for anything. They didn't stand up for Laken Riley's mother. They didn't stand up for 12-year-old murder and rape victim Jocelyn Nungari's mother. They didn't stand up for Mark Fogel and his 95-year-old mother. They didn't stand up for DJ Daniel, who's 6 years past a 5-month, death notice for brain cancer. All he wanted to do is be a cop. Couldn't even stand for that when Trump bestowed the Secret Service, honorary Secret Service credentials on him. It was great. And that was as far as Trump was concerned, all of it was good. On the other side, Michael, they don't know. They can't respond, so they just go back to the well of let's just hate Trump.
Yeah, I mean, they were just completely classless the whole time from the very beginning when they had to throw out that troglodyte for constantly interrupting him. And the fact that they were ready for it, too. That's the other thing that I noticed. Like, Johnson was ready to go. He knew they planned disruptions. They wanted to do something to bring in eggs and shake those. But they got cut off. They weren't allowed to do that, luckily, or that would have been a whole nother scene. But, again, like, this is what I think America saw last night is, you have Trump and his agenda, which he's laid out. He's been very clear about. They've seen how much he's already accomplished in 40 some odd days, and they see the direction he's taking us. And the majority of the country is behind that now. And, their polling even shows this. And the other thing is the Democrats just came off as anti-American. Again, the fact that they could only stand and cheer for Ukraine. Any of the other things that, even if you want to take the political ones out, like the border and the tranny madness agenda that they're behind, even if you want to subtract those, they couldn't even stand and cheer, like you said, for the people that mattered, like this the poor kid with brain cancer, the other gentleman that was accepted into was the Naval Academy or West Point. Yeah, sorry, I can't remember which. But even things like that should unify all of us. Even those, they sat on their hands, like you said.
And they've got to be. They've got to really be working the spin machine hard to try and turn that around. I don't think they're going to. You mentioned polls, and I want to go over a couple of them because these polls are pretty staggering. This is the let me see. Hold on, let me make sure I got this right. This is the CBS News YouGov poll of viewers of Trump's speech. 76% showed approval, 23% disapproved rather. The speech made you feel, among speech watchers, 68% ranked it as hopeful, 54% ranked it as proud, 27 worried, and 16 angry. And I'm sure that 16 probably came out of that same 27% batch.
Yes.
And then, as if that weren't enough, same poll, CBS News, YouGov, among speech watchers, 74% considered it presidential, the address. 74% considered it entertaining. We've got some clips and we'll show you. It was pretty entertaining. As 71% inspiring, 62% found it unifying, and 46 found it divisive. Now, of course, that could go either way. What do they mean? The speech was divisive, or the behavior of the Democrats was certainly divisive. You mentioned Al Green. Let's watch Al Green get himself and his cane booted. This was a thing to watch. Cut one, Annie, if you.
Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the sergeant at arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
Get him the hell out. I just loved it. And they were, I tell you what, Michael, did you see what happened last week in the Serbian parliament where they brought in, a couple of days ago, where they brought in smoke bombs? That's, Democrats are teetering on the verge of going Serbian on us here. It's really crazy. And Al Green, he did make it through the first 23 minutes of the speech before he got booted. So, of the 2-hour speech. So his night was early. Maybe that was his plan all along, but I can't believe it. Where do the Democrats go from here after last night? I mean, I could have said this a week ago, but last night was really crystallizing. I mean, really very clarifying for a lot of people that had heretofore not been paying attention. Where do they go from here?
I don't know. I mean, they've given zero indication that they've learned their lesson and are going to adjust their policy going forward. And I think that's really put it on display for everyone here in America, that their policy is against America. At the bottom line is, if you, and this is the other thing I think Trump did such a great job of yesterday, was laying it right at their feet, from the border failures and saying, we were told it would take legislation to fix the border. Turns out all it took was a new president. Things like that. Again, putting it right at their feet. Exactly what they've done. There's the other thing that I saw about not all, but the majority of the guests that Trump brought in. They were all victims of Democrat policy. Yeah. And then this was crystallized in Trump's speech and in the gestures, the offers, everything else towards them, that this he laid it right at their feet, that the open border policy, this LGBTQ tranny madness, that's what caused this problem. And people can relate to that because everybody's seen it across the entire country now. There is no doubt in most people's mind that we're being taken down the wrong path and we are on a better path now. And that's another thing that was shown in these polls and surveys that came out, that as high as 80% of the country, and I don't remember if that was in the CBS or the CNN poll, thought that the country was now on the right track.
Yeah, and that scares the hell out of them. A lot of folks, Michael, say the same thing. They'll say, well, Democrats are just out of touch. They just live in a bubble there. And there's certainly some truth to that. But I think they're more than out of touch. I think they're scared. I think they're scared to death of what this administration, Doge, Kash Patel, and now Dan Bongino, hello, is gonna find on them. And there's, by the way, there's probably quite a few Republicans who are worried about this same thing. Yep. Republicans are trying to make nice. Democrats are going to go out there fighting. Pelosi looked like she looked like she had soiled her Depends. She was just really having a time of it last night. I want to play one more clip, Michael, while we have time, correct, Annie? Okay, I want to play. We're going to kind of go out of order here, Michael, but or Annie. This is going to be cut 6, but this was before the speech. Democrats had decided to put together a talking points.
Yes, they're in NPC videos. Yes, I saw these.
This was classic. Cut 6 roll.
When I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
That ain't true. That's what you just heard. Since day one of Donald Trump's presidency, prices are not down, they're up. Inflation is getting worse, not better. The prices of groceries, gas, housing, eggs, of essentials. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has done nothing. Goose eggs to lower prices for you. Instead, he's pardoned violent criminals who savagely beat police officers on January 6th. That's an effing disgrace. He's letting Elon Musk take a chainsaw to vital government programs, and then, even worse, giving him access to Americans' most sensitive data, Social Security numbers, tax returns.
At any rate, it was all of them. That
Yes.
one was just showing Schumer and Warren. And of course, they were saying verbatim the same thing, but they all did it. And it's just, and of course, that, much like the paddles, has turned into internet gold.
Yes.
Because people are mocking the hell out of them for it. But
as they should.
Yeah, as they should, correctly. But I just think that I just think it's a bit odd that I think it's more than being out of touch. I mean, you can't be so out of touch that you're just blinded completely to reality. Do you think there's something to it?
You know, I mean, I think I kind of think it is. Maybe out of touch isn't quite the right way to put it. Maybe it's they're used to their media machine being able to control the narrative, and that just isn't working. They've lost the trust of the American people, our media, and the Democrat Party. I mean, their favorability is at an all-time low, while Republicans is at an all-time high. The media, CNN has lost 40% of their viewership since the election. MSNBC is down almost 60%, and this hasn't readjusted. So nobody's watching their garbage anymore. Nobody's believing it. Nobody buys it. This last election cycle just tore to shreds any credibility that they had left in their messaging machine. When 89% or 87%, I can't remember which, of Trump of coverage of Trump is negative and 89% of Kamala is positive, your average normie voter in the middle knows something's up. They know they're being fed a bill of goods. And regaining that trust after this last election cycle is just not going to happen. They can't get on message. Their party's in complete shambles. I mean, look at who they have now to lead their party. They have David Hogg, who wants to ban all guns, and even Democrat voters don't want to do that. So yeah, they are completely out of touch. They've lost their minds. They can't back down from this LGBTQ tranny madness or supporting a border invasion. And of course, people are not going to get on board with that. The other thing is, I really think that Trump winning and winning the popular vote has made a lot more people less afraid to speak their mind and share their opinions. People that were in Trump's camps before that were silent, and now they're willing to go say what they need to, say what they want to on social media and wherever else, and they're building a larger and larger coalition as Trump's agenda rolls forward, and people say, you know what, the media lied to me about all this. Things are getting better. We are seeing results under Trump, and he's not a dictator. They've learned he's clearly not a fascist, and he's not Orange Hitler.
Yeah, well, they're going to. They may have learned it, but they're not going to get off of that message because it's all they've got. I really do think that the whole. Well, it really was like watching a. I think they may have just pissed away the entire midterm election for 26 last night alone. That's a long way between now and then, but good God.
Well, let me correct something. I don't think the Democrats have learned that lesson, but I think the American people have. The American people have torn this narrative to shreds. They don't believe it anymore, and it once you've been caught lying, it's very hard to earn the American people's trust back, especially again when they're still making these just bombastic, insane claims that Trump's gonna end Social Security, Doge is gonna get your personal information. They don't want to discuss the reality that we live in now, that all this money laundering, this waste, fraud, and abuse has been uncovered and proven to everybody, and they've got nothing to say. They can't even defend it.
They can't defend it, so they attack the messenger. And so it's a strategy as old as time. And it's not going to work because, as you mentioned, and you rightly mentioned, and it's thanks to outlets like, well, Ex-American News right here, your show, my show, people are seeing more and more. We used to call it the alternative media. I'd say
we are the media now.
Now it's pretty. We're not mainstream. That's for damn sure, thankfully. But we're certainly respected compared to some of them. I watched Nicole Wallace last night. Did you see that clip? I've got that coming up in just a bit. I'll show you. Nicole Wallace was shameful last night. Former Republican Nicole Wallace. Absolutely shameful. And then CNN comes on and says, well, guess what? Trump did great. Democrats, not so much. It's hysterical to watch, but in a way, I hate to say this, but in a way, it kind of worries me because I'm a firm believer that you have to have at least two viable political parties. So they push and pull, and that's what we used to have. It's been many years now, but we used to have two that would sometimes get together, even if it was Tip O'Neill and Reagan who couldn't stand each other. At least they can work together. These Democrats today, they're all the squad now. We used to talk about the squad. They are the squad, the whole party.
Well, yeah, and you bring up something else. I brought this up numerous times with Reagan and Tip O'Neill specifically, is when it came time to go teach Gaddafi a lesson and go bomb his family out of existence, or to rescue college students in Grenada, they could come across the aisle and do the right thing for the American people. And you didn't see any even remnant of that last night.
Not at all. Not even a little bit. I mean, hell's bells, man. The Democrats were presented with, as you rightly point out, victim after victim of their own policies, whether it was Jocelyn and Gary's mom or Mark Fogel and his mom, whether it was the 13-year-old brain cancer survivor who was really not a political pawn at all. I mean, I'm happy to say that there's a police station about 5 miles from my house that made him an honorary police officer about 8 months ago. So in Spring Lake, New Jersey. So they couldn't stand for any of it, which begs the question to their base. Do you honestly believe that they're going to stand for you if you vote for them? Good Lord.
No, I mean, it was stage 4 TDS on display, and unfortunately now the entire Democrat Party is infected with it. And until they find a cure, we're not going to get the Democrats back. And to your point, maybe this is a chance for the Libertarians or another party that doesn't hate the country to step up and gain some seats.
Yeah, and it may well happen. And last night, their display of pure idiocy may help ensure that. All right, listen, we've got to take a break here in just a minute. Well, just now, really. But when we come back, I want to talk about more on the speech, obviously. Also, this outrageous ruling that just came down from SCOTUS. Chief Justice John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett, what a disappointment. They decided to once again join the liberals on the court. We'll talk about that and more. My guest is Michael Lauber. You're watching The Right Hook with Steve Hook. We will be right back after this.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 6-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Well, there you go. There's an American success story. Mike Lindell, of course, he was probably one of the first major victims of cancel culture. They removed him from Bed Bath & Beyond and all the other. By the way, how's Bed Bath & Beyond doing these days? They're no longer around, but MyPillow is. Take advantage of those great discounts, great quality products, man. The Giza sheets, love them. The slippers are incredible. And, of course, the thing that launched them all, the pillows. Go to MyPillow.com. Support this great American company. Mike Lindell, he's a great American, and all of his American workers up in Minnesota making quality products for you. Remember to call 800-749-7098, 800-749-7098. Use the promo code HOOK Not only do you get free shipping, but you're going to get additional discounts as well. And every product at mypillow.com and mystore.com, you can use this promo code and go save some money and get some good products. All right. Michael Lauber, back again. So let's talk about this. We'll get back to the speech in a minute, but the freshest thing coming hot off the presses is this ruling, essentially saying that Trump doesn't have the right to withhold funding to just over $2 billion from USAID and other entities that Democrats decided to piss away a lot of taxpayer money. A circuit court that had really, I don't know if you read Alito's dissent. It was scathing, probably one of the most scathing dissents I've ever seen. He even ended it by saying, "I am stunned." And he put the question to him, how is it that a district court that probably doesn't even have jurisdiction in this matter get to dictate the powers that the executive branch wields? And now they've set a precedent here at the Supreme Court, again, thanks to all the liberal members and Chief Justice John Roberts, who was bought off a long time ago. And this major disappointment, we were all looking so forward to Amy Coney Barrett coming in there. She's turned into a disgrace. What do you think about the whole thing?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's such a disappointment. It's a perversion of justice. This inferior court judge should not be able to overrule the president of the United States and the will of the people. But they're just going to have to fight it. Now, one thing I have seen is they forgot to set an actual timeline of when Trump has to comply with this ruling. So, I guess we might as well wait till 2030. And then we can address it. If Biden was going to play games with student loan forgiveness and other things, especially after getting smacked back, 2-3 times, then I don't see any reason that we shouldn't play the same games if they have no chance of enforcement. The other thing I saw tweeted from Thomas Massey earlier, and I agree, is in reality, we do need to fix these problems with legislation. That this was a shortcut to get it done, save the American people's money. But at the end of the day, it is going to require legislation to actually fix this that Trump can then sign. But, again, it highlights the problem with the corruption within our courts. And apparently it does go all the way up to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
You know what? I just thought of something. This is an opportunity for Trump. He could embrace a policy that the Democrats touted over and over again, and maybe we need to put 3 more justices on the Supreme Court. That would be a good way for President Trump to reach across the aisle and solve a problem that's afflicting all Americans.
Oh, boy, how quickly they're going to backtrack on that idea now that Trump's in power. It's a classic idea, though. But you touch on something that's absolutely true. This is going to have to be settled through legislation, and this kind of bounces back to the speech last night. Democrats stepped on their junk in a big way in front of everybody. Usually it's the Republicans that trip over their own junk. Republicans have always found a way of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. And last night it was the Democrats' turn to really just completely show their ass. I haven't found anybody that has openly defended it except, pink and blue haired, tie-dye haired freaks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really funny to watch. I want to, you mentioned too, Michael, this DJ Daniel kid. What a story this kid is. I mentioned that Spring Lake, New Jersey, which is a tiny little bucolic shore town, classic Jersey shore town, beautiful town. They made him an honorary police officer a year ago. And his story is heartwarming. It's all about career. I mean, he was given 5 months to live from brain cancer. He's undergone 13 separate surgeries to get rid of this thing. And he's still alive 6 years later, or 5+ years later, since he got this 5-month prognosis from his doctors. And I'm sure a lot more people are praying for him today after last night. That's for sure. But I want you to see, this kid was obviously overwhelmed last night. He was kind of looking everywhere. It's like, wow. But listen to how together and how thoughtful this kid is. This was a tape that he made prior to going to the speech. So I want to set that up. Trump had invited him, and he sat down, DJ Daniel, and he addressed the president and the country like this. Cut 2, Annie, go.
But you want to know the craziest part? Because my mom bathes me and my brothers all together. and out of nowhere I locked up, and then my dad was calling my name, and I started going to the slow thing, and he said, "Stop playing with me," and then I started to act, I ain't gonna lie, I started to act slow, and then as soon as he said that, we was speeding all the way, running lights, going to the hospital, and then next thing you know, I was seizing on the table. They said, "No, we gonna have to go in his brain tonight." Ever since then, I had 13 brain surgeries, and that's how many times my personality has changed. And that's something that you don't hear from a terminally ill child. They had 5 months to live. I'm gonna keep on going until my gas tanks run out. And that's when God calls you home. You never know when God's gonna call you home. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my dad. I know he's pretty proud of me, and I'm pretty proud of him too. And I'd like to thank President Trump, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here today.
Yeah, that's some great stuff there. I've already noticed on X and some other socials, Democrats trying to say, is this kid saying that Trump saved his life? No, he meant I wouldn't be here if not for President Trump. He's talking about the invitation to the speech, you morons. And he said that my mom bathed us all together, and my dad saw me locking up and acting slow. And of course, you heard the story there. Pretty amazing, a pretty amazing story. And what's worse is Democrats couldn't give a damn about that story. Have we lost Michael?
Sorry.
That
was my fault. I was sneezing. Sorry. I've been sneezing off and on through this whole show trying to cover it up. But you really just saw how ghoulish they were, especially some of these reporters talking about it afterwards, where and I'm sorry, I don't remember her name, but the one
Nicole Wallace.
Yeah, it was okay. So that was Nicole Wallace.
Yeah, I'll play it for you in just a sec, but go ahead with your thoughts.
Yeah, just sick and disgusting. And to see this video from him and how mature he is, given the situation that he's in, it just makes it that much worse.
Absolutely does make it worse. You mentioned how the media and ghoulish is the right word. It was ghoulish. When you allow your hatred of one man to override your sympathy for a kid like this, for a young woman like Laken Riley, for a poor girl that was raped and murdered under an overpass, 12 years old, and when you allow your hatred of one man to just completely wipe out your humanity, it was such a bad look. Now, this is Nicole Wallace. Speaking of bad looks, what a joke this woman is. This is going to be cut 5. Watch Nicole Wallace. Now, it sounds like she's being nice at first, but oh, how quickly she turns the knife. Yeah. Cut 5, go.
But I think this was a lesson in finding one thing that you let yourself feel. And I let myself feel joy about DJ. And I hope he's alive for another, 95 years, right? And I hope he lives and the life he wants to live. He wants to be a cop. He knows what he wants to do. And maybe when you have childhood cancer, that crystallizes for you. And I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer. But I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump's supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to suicide. And I hope he isn't one who has to testify against the people who carried out acts of seditious conspiracy and then live to see Donald Trump pardon those people.
What an absolute, I'll say it, bitch. I mean, what a bitchy thing to say.
She could have just left it at the first part of that statement and been just fine.
Yeah, but then she brings up suicide.
Yeah.
God almighty. Unbelievable.
I mean, these people are just blinded by hatred.
They are.
I don't think they even realize how, again, ghoulish they look. That they're just totally consumed with TDS, and there isn't a cure yet.
I mean, it really is. I mean, Nicole Wallace, by the way, it should be mentioned, she's come under withering assault for that stupidity. She has come under withering assault online, and it's just a matter of time before she makes her X account private, I'm sure, because it's been nonstop. By the way, hat tip to John Whitworth. He is a Spring, I guess he's a New Jersey listener. And he wanted to say, Steve, just a reminder, heads up, it was the Spring Lake Heights Police Department, not Spring Lake. They're two right next to each other. I used to actually live in Spring Lake Heights. So thank you for that, John. But at any rate, that's how real Americans treated this kid, with sympathy, with understanding, with applause, and saying, good God, man, you're fighting this? I mean, what father wouldn't be proud of their son fighting the way this kid has fought? But Nicole Wallace immediately goes to the ugly parts of it. And Democrats, as we mentioned before, couldn't be bothered to not even stand. They didn't even applaud. They just sat there like bumps on a log.
When, as you said, this kid is apolitical, and they can't even do that. Ignoring Lake and Riley's mother and sister and some of the other victims of their nonsense. I can, again, don't agree with it, but I can sort of understand why they would want to ignore those stories. But there's no reason for them to treat this poor kid the way they have.
It seems to me, Michael, that what happened yesterday before this joint address to Congress in the House chamber was, I assume it would probably be Hakeem Jeffries and other leaders. They all probably got together, got their caucus together and said, okay, here's the game plan. Don't applaud anything. Don't hold up your signs, hold up your stupid signs. Don't applaud anything. Don't show any positive until they mentioned Ukraine, as you pointed out.
Yeah. Well, believe it or not, I've heard Jeffries was extremely upset about them having the signs and the props and the other stuff that he'd been telling them for the last few days, that this was going to blow up in their face. And you know what? Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, that's just it. You didn't have to be a genius to figure that out. When you took those paddles on the floor, what the hell did you think was going to happen? You turned your entire caucus into a meme factory at that point.
Yes. Well, and again, just behaving the way they did there. I mean, remember how upset they were when, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name, but the gentleman that called out Barack Obama, you lied. That was a story.
Joe Wilson.
There you go. I was thinking Wilson. I couldn't remember the first name, but they went crazy about that. They even talked about censoring him. Luckily they didn't do that, but that was over. You lied. 2 words. And then you look at what they've deteriorated to over the last several years now. You look at what the Democrat Party has turned into and where they stand today. Again, they're anti-American. It isn't even just that they have differing views or want to take the country in a different direction or whatever. No, they clearly hate us.
Well, and they have a lot, and this is a thing that's really, they do hate us, but it's all because it's like it's metastasized. Their hatred of Trump has turned into the hatred of anyone that supports Trump, which has turned into the hatred of anyone that even would be slightly deferential towards Trump. I mean, look at the withering assault that Mayor of New York, Eric Adams, has come under just because he came out and said, and that boy, you're talking about somebody that was absolutely, Trump is so prescient, because the second Eric Adams came out several months ago and said, we can't handle this influx of illegals, Trump went to Truth Social and said, I see an indictment coming in the next 6 months for Eric Adams. It took about 3 months, but the indictment came. Sure enough, there it was. Just absolutely. I don't. If let's just put on your Democrat. I'm gonna put you in a weird position here, Michael. Put on your Democratic hat for a second and pretend that you're advising the Democrat. Let's put you in the role of James Carville. What do you tell them?
That they need a total realignment, that they're going to have to dump some of these radical wackos, or their new mouthpiece, this ratchet hood rat Jasmine Crockett. If they don't get away from this kind of stuff, they will never win dog catcher in Springfield, Missouri ever again, because the kind of policies that they keep moving forward with, no one supports, only their fringe lunatic base, and you can't lead a country with less than 20% of the voters. So yeah, unless they want to become irrelevant, unless they want to join the Whigs and the dustbin of history, they need to completely shift on almost every issue. Like you said earlier, it'd be nice to have some opposition, a different party, a different path, to just so we don't end up with lazy uniparty, one-sided rule. The Republicans also make way too many mistakes. I mean, too many of them are deep state adjacent or deep state aligned. We have too many undocumented Democrats in the Republican Party as is. But there's a real opportunity right now. If you want some real leadership and to make a change on the left, and you're a Democrat that still has 2 brain cells to rub together, like, this is your moment.
Yeah. The old adage has always been that it's not the extreme of either base that wins the elections. It's the middle. It's the independents. It's the moderates. Democrats have lost all of them. Democrats have lost young black male votes. Democrats they haven't lost it completely, but they've lost it to a number that they've never seen before. Same goes with Hispanic. Same goes with young people across the board, regardless of gender, race, sexual orientation, identity, any of this crap that the Democrats keep trying to use to balkanize the electorate. They've lost all of that. But the most important part is they've lost the middle. And until they find a way to tack back to the center, they're never going to get that middle back again. It's pretty stunning to watch. We've got to take a short break. Michael Lauber is my guest today. Thank you, Michael. We take a break. We come back on the other side of it. We'll dive into some of the humor because there were really moments in the speech last night that were laugh out loud funny. And guess who didn't laugh, Michael? We'll let that
I wonder.
Hang. I wonder. You're watching The Right Hook. I'm Steve Hook. This is my special guest, Michael Lauber. We'll be right back right after this.
Well, hello, everybody. It's Annie Cyrus. Welcome to my art studio where all the magic happens. This is the station for painting, and that is the station for all the resin art I do. If you want to check out my art, all you gotta do is go to lutfstudio.com. Finish this painting, but I'm sure for this, I hope I'll see you at lutfstudio.com.
There you go. That is not only a great artist, that is a Uber producer, Annie Cyrus. By the way, go check out some of that art. You saw it there. Not all of it. Those are just tiny samples of what she does, from glassware to resin work to paintings, all of it at LUTF. That's Live Up to Freedom Studio.com. LUTF, Live Up to Freedom. That's how you can remember it. Studio.com, and get a handmade, one-of-a-kind piece of art from our wonderful producer, Annie. Great themes, patriotic themes, Christian themes, all-American themes. Just tell her what you want. She'll do it. She's amazing. I mean, just look at the program she produces here. She's great at it. So, and by the way, you supporting her helps you support this program. So we thank you for that. We thank Annie. All right, Michael. Now, there were times last night, if you were like me, put it this way, even my daughter, who is relatively apolitical, I mean, she comes down on the right side of things, but she doesn't pay, she's 20-something. She doesn't pay that much. Even she was laughing at some of this stuff that Trump threw out last night. This one wasn't so much a punchline, but it was hands down, for my money, one of the greatest applause lines I have ever seen. This wasn't a State of the Union address, but it was the same general idea. Yeah. One of the greatest applause lines I have ever seen in a speech of this type happened right here. Annie, let's go to cut 3. This is Trump talking about the immigration crisis, how it came about, and how he's fixing it. Cut 3.
Since taking office, my administration has launched the most sweeping border and immigration crackdown in American history, and we quickly achieved the lowest numbers of illegal border crossers ever recorded. Thank you. The media and our friends in the Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation. We must have legislation to secure the border. But it turned out that all we really needed was a new president. Thank you.
Right there. That's good. I love it. I forget that chick's name with the purple hair. I saw the greatest meme, Michael. It was just a picture of her frowning, and it put in a little bubble quote above her head. It said, "That's it. We must kill the Batman." She does look like a Batman villain, doesn't she?
Yeah, and I'm not convinced that's a woman either, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, but I mean, what an applause line. And by the way, just again, it's worth pointing out that not only the Democrats not applaud the fact that we're not being invaded by masses, they sat on their hands again. I mean, at every turn, at every single turn, they stepped on the rake.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're big mad that their whole money laundering operation's been shut down. I mean, we learned just the day before this address to Congress that $1 billion was laundered through an NGO that apparently was just keeping an empty building on standby for the last few years in case there'd be overflow of illegal aliens invading our country. And, as DOJ digs deeper and deeper into these, we see what NGOs are tied to what Congress member's spouse or what judge's spouse or what other party operative for the left has enriched themselves. And again, there will be some casualties on the right, and they deserve the same treatment as the Democrats. These people have betrayed us, betrayed our nation, and stolen from you and I, the taxpayers across this nation. They need to pay a price for that. But they know their gravy train is gone. And they hoped to, if not make all these illegal aliens future Democrat voters, to continue to stack the deck with colonies of illegal aliens in California, New York, and other states where they're shifting the political map every time there's a new census. I mean, I saw a count the other day that right now the Democrats have 36 reps. It was either 36 or 38 reps in the House that they should not have due to illegal aliens being counted in the census in major cities, and that it's shifted that many members of the House out of the states they should be, the red states, because of the illegal aliens counted in our census.
Yeah, unbelievable. And that's the thing that a lot of these, it's funny, Democrat voters are the most arrogantly ignorant group of people you'll ever try and debate with, because I actually got into a debate with a guy, I don't know, a month or two ago on my own social media sites. And I basically was saying, he said, "Steve, these people can't vote. You're a moron. Don't you understand how it works?" I'm like, "You don't understand how it works, pal. If you put a whole bunch of illegals, immigrants into you all of a sudden create a new congressional district. That's what they're going for. They tried to do, and by the way, Michael, I think you will attest, you would agree with me here. They tried to do this with Texas. That's where they were really flooding them into Texas. Their whole dream was, if we turn Texas blue, the Republicans will never win again. And guess what? They're right. That would have probably ended up happening. But what did the governor, Greg Abbott, do in Texas? He started busing them to all over the country, lots of them landing in New York City, which, of course, is when Eric Adams piped up, and now he's getting booed as a Trump acolyte as well. It's really scary to watch.
Well, I mean, you saw it over and over again. They're fine with being generous with other people's money. They want to open our borders to whoever wants to come here until they start showing up in Martha's Vineyard or in Washington D.C. Miriam Bowser was busting them out of D.C. As they were coming up from Texas and from Florida. They don't want to deal with it, but that's fine if they flood a place like Springfield, Ohio, with 20,000 Haitians, or northern Cincinnati, close to where Annie lives over here, with I think we're up to 20,000 from Mauritania, Senegal, and then again it's Catholic Social Services. It's just this corrupt network of globalists, leftists that want to destroy not just our nation but the entire world. We've already seen what this policy has done to Europe. They're on the brink of collapse in many countries over there right now because this invasion's gone unchecked for decades, where you're bringing in people that are not part of your culture, are not part of the makeup of whatever country that they're in, that they are a separate colony unto themselves, and it just tears the fabric of any country apart, especially when this is allowed to persist for decades at a time.
Yeah, well, that's the very definition of balkanization, and that seems to be exactly what the Democrats' game plan was, and more importantly, that seems to be the exact game plan of Klaus Schwab and the folks in Davos, of course, Soros and his Marxist rich boy son. The whole goal is to balkanize democracies around the world, collapse them from within, and then reap the financial grift that comes out of it. It's sickening to watch. I mean, it's just absolute sickening to watch it. And I thought Trump's applause line was great. You don't need massive legislation. You just needed a new president. And Democrats started to boo. And then all of a sudden, the Republicans started chanting Trump, 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 and it shut them right down. That was wonderful. But now let's get to the one that I thought was the funniest line, the funniest bit of the whole speech. And I bet you know where I'm going with this, Michael. This was classic Trump, spelling out some of the outrageous expenditures that Doge has found. And by the way, for those of you who say Elon Musk is stealing, that was one of these stupid signs they held up. Musk steals. Yeah, Musk is stealing the money that you stole. He's stealing back and giving it. And by the way, being very transparent about it. Just go to doge.org. You can see where all of this money was found, and you can do your own homework on it. They're hoping that you never will. But this is where Trump kind of spelled it out, and it was a thing of beauty to watch. Let's go to cut 4, if we could, Annie.
$40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that is. $8 million to promote LGBTQI+ in the African nation of Lesotho, which nobody has ever heard of. $60 million for indigenous peoples and Afro-Colombian empowerment in Central America. $60 million. $8 million for making mice transgender. This is real.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
I know, and it's just this is the defense that Democrats will come up with. $8 million is nothing, or they'll say it's such chump change. What are you talking about? It's nothing. In the grand scheme of things, you nickel and dime taxpayers to death, and then when people point it out, you're kind of left looking like a fool. I mean, that whole thing about sedentary migrants, nobody even knows what that is.
Yeah, I have no idea what a sedentary migrant is, and I swear I have never heard of this country in Africa that he mentioned. I actually meant to look it up to see where I missed him at, but who cares? I've never heard of him.
Yeah, you never heard of him, but one thing you can be assured, there is at least one very fat slush fund in that country that a lot of crooked corruptocrats inside the Beltway are dipping into. And that's exactly what this is all about, isn't it, Michael? This is the biggest slush fund grift. This, the USAID crap, Elon went on, I don't know if you saw the Joe Rogan podcast, he did this a few days ago, where he basically said Social Security is the biggest con in the history of the planet. He goes, trillions have been. And of course, when he says that, the Democrats, Michael, will naturally knee-jerkingly say, he's coming after your Social Security. No, he's not. You jackasses have been coming after everybody's making numbers up.
He's coming after it if you're 312 years old and still collecting a paycheck from Social Security, or you're somebody that doesn't exist. But this is the other big battle the Democrats have had right now. I mean, Donald Trump has somehow gotten the Democrat Party to go cheer for the IRS, to cheer for fraud, to cheer for transgender operas in Ecuador, or whatever other nonsense garbage they've spent urinized money on through USAID. And it's not just there; it's the Treasury. It's every single entity, every single arm of the federal government has had grift, graft, whatever you want to call it, looting from the pockets of the American people. They're supposed to be good stewards of our money. And I don't expect perfection. If the Pentagon is audited again, I mean, they're going to fail again. But, let's say that we had found, we'll even say $40 million worth of unaccountable funds. I think given the entire scope of their budget, it's reasonable that there's going to be some mistakes. I'm not asking for perfection, but I do want some actual clarity on this stuff and to know if there's a problem, we need to resolve it immediately. This isn't their money to spend.
Yeah, accountability would be nice, huh? Accountability would. And then anybody that tries to hold them accountable, Hitler, fascist. It's pretty stunning to watch. What's more stunning is to believe that there are people that actually believe that load of crap. The good news, I guess, Michael, on that score is that number is shrinking. And I suspect that after last night, it's going to shrink a little bit more. Don't you think?
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, I think people are going to be fleeing the Democrats like you wouldn't believe. It's uncool to be affiliated with the left at this point. They've become a laughing stock and a joke. And I think when that starts hitting the college campuses and the high schools and everywhere else, and their blue-haired moonbat professors and teachers are all of a sudden getting mocked and made fun of by their students left and right, it's going to become that much more uncool to be a Democrat. That's the only thing they have left is that type of social clout, and that's going to start evaporating out from under them at an ever increasing rate.
Yeah, and we should have. I should have probably mentioned the anti-Israel, anti-Jew, pro-Hamas protest that took place at Barnard College, which is a very expensive private college in New York. That kind of crap is all funded by Open Society and George Soros type related NGOs. Yep. And Trump has basically said, if there's a college or university, and we'll see what this Supreme Court ruling does. The way this Supreme Court ruling came down, stunning. I mean, I know it doesn't have anything to do with federally funding colleges and universities, but Democrats will play the lawsuit game. But Trump has basically said, if you support this, if you promote this kind of crap, we're cutting off all federal aid. If he succeeds in that, I think you're going to see that start to just go away like a fart in the wind. Pardon my expression.
Yeah. Well, pretty much. And again, I'm really surprised about this Supreme Court decision. I need to read through more of it. I mean, there's been other decisions in the past I've been unhappy with, but when I read through the dissenting opinion, I see, okay, well, yes, you're actually doing your job. You're going by the letter of the law, and that's what they're there for. They're not there to legislate. They're not there to legislate from the bench. But yeah, America needs this to get back on track. We have to cut this. We have to get under our colleges, our universities, and everything else back under control. We need to eliminate the Department of Education, considering, since their inception, American children have gotten stupider every year under their tutelage. There's not been 1 year where they have improved across any metric since the Department of Education was founded. So it's time to cut our losses. You can't keep throwing money at this. You can't keep beating a dead horse like this.
Yeah. And that's what they do. Their answer to everything is to throw money at it. The Department of Education doesn't educate anything. What the Department of Education has turned into is a conduit between politicians and teachers unions. Who do teachers unions support? I mean, hello,
the Democrats.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. So you're right about one thing. Their piggy bank of grift is getting cut in every direction, whether it's USAID and the NGO networks that they've got lined up, whether it's grift and graft going on inside maybe the DOD, anywhere. I mean, pick a Department of Interior is probably, they're going to find a lot. So this is the kind of stuff that I think Trump was so brilliant at underlining last night. He really kind of said, and he wasn't playing at least I didn't pick up on it. Admittedly, I'm a little bit partisan here. I'm not ashamed to admit that. There's a reason for that. But it's not like he was playing partisan politics. There were times when he was blaming Biden, but he goes, this is what we're going to do. Forward-looking, optimistic. We're bringing in these. He was mentioning billions of dollars coming in from Nissan, billions of dollars coming in from Tim Cook and Apple, trillions even. I mean,
yeah, we're over $1 trillion now in new investment. And again, it's only been 40 days. I think this other thing that he brought up last night, like restoring America's shipbuilding industry, that isn't just going to be building ships. I saw some people mocking this already. Oh, this is old news, blah, blah, blah. Well, goods still have to get across the ocean from China and Europe and wherever else. And we're going to need more of that now that we're going to build more here in America. But that isn't just building ships. That's going to be a giant influx for the steel industry, for a lot of trades, for other companies that build, everything from cabins on luxury liners to shipping containers. This is going to be another huge boom for America.
It's going to be a boom for not only the shipbuilders, but for the ports and everything. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be infrastructure bill is what it's going to be. And it's going to also include a whole bunch of ships, including some much needed military warfare and naval weaponry and whatnot. Michael Lauber, I want to thank you for joining us. Give us the details of the show and when we can find you on Ex American News so all of my audience knows.
Well, thank you for having me. And you guys can find me every morning, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. on The Insurrection with my co-host, Derek Evans. And you can find me Wednesday night also on Ex American News with Inaz Annie Cyrus, your producer, for He Said, She Said, where tonight I think we're also going to be discussing this Trump's address to Congress last night and a number of other issues.
Well, listen, Michael, thank you so much for joining us, man. I knew when I found out you were going to be a guest, I'm like, yes, that's a guy I can talk with. So I thank you for that, brother. And you have a wonderful show tonight. Hey, everybody, thank you. Thank you for joining us here on Ex American News and The Right Hook. I am Steve Hook. We'll see you once again, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Friday. We'll have a whole new show and a whole bunch more to talk about. Until then, have a wonderful day. Goodbye.